Hey guys, my name is Timio, and today I want to go over some tips that you may not have known about in Rainbow Six Siege. I have put about 70 hours into this game so far, and through my adventures, I've figured and stumbled across some things that I think you guys will find very helpful. And so the first one revolves around Sledges' hammer. Sledge is easily one of my favorite operators in Rainbow Six Siege because of his versatility, but also his ability to one-shot tripwire. Normally, to take these things out, it takes you 3 hits with your melee weapon, and that leaves you very exposed. You have to look at the ground, you have to go through the process, which takes multiple seconds, and if the enemy is observant and they hear you hitting their tripwire, they're gonna round the corner and get an easy headshot. And so instead of going through that process, if you are playing as Sledge, whip out that hammer, slam it directly into the center of the tripwire, and you can one-shot it. It may not be useful in every situation, but if your team is trying to move around the room and there's 1,000 tripwires that you need to get rid of, this is a very quick way that you can dispatch of all of them. But probably the most helpful piece of advice that I can bestow upon you today has to deal with the deployable shields. Half the time when I'm trying to place this thing down in a corner, I feel like my character's doing the Macarena because he constantly just wants to place it down, but then brings it back up. And so the way that you work around this and to make your life a hell of a lot easier and not wasting a lot of valuable time at the start of the round in the defensive stage is hold the key instead of tapping it. When you hold the key, your character will bring out the object, he'll bring out the shield, and if he folds it, that means that you can't place it down in that location. As soon as he extends it out though, you're good to go 100% of the time. Same is true for Tachanka's turrets. It can be a nightmare placing this thing down, and having to go through the animation constantly is going to waste a lot of time. So once again, hold the button instead of tapping it, and you're going to get that visual cue of where you can actually place this thing down in certain locations. The next thing comes down to Glaz. You probably already know that Glaz has a weapon with more penetration than basically every other weapon in the game. He's able to shoot through the windows on the airplane map. But did you know that he can also shoot through Castle's barriers? I wouldn't say that he's a direct counter to Castle because it's still very difficult to actually line up a shot and do something like this, but if you have an idea that an enemy is camping just directly behind one of these barriers, if you line it up properly, or if you have one of your teammates using a drone to spot him, you can get a solid headshot and drop them without them even knowing that you're there. That power does not extend to every object in the game though. Deployable shields are something that you can't punch through. Of course, reinforced walls, concrete walls are another, but basically everything else in the game, if you line it up with this high-powered rifle, you're gonna be able to take out your enemy with that one bullet. One misconception that I've been hearing a lot lately is that IQ isn't as bad as I make her out to be. The theory is that if an enemy defender is in a camera, you can see their position if they're just kind of behind a wall. If you're unaware, IQ has the ability, or her gadget, is to see through walls and identify electronic devices. And so if an enemy player is using a camera, in theory, you would be able to know their exact position and maybe take them out by having either your pistol out and round the corner on them, or just tell one of your teammates to kind of round the bend and immediately get that one kill. Sadly, that's not how it works. Here is a clear example. I've got my friend, he's peering through one of the cameras, I've got my gadget up, and while I can see all the cameras around me, they're pinging, they've got that circle around them, the player himself does not. The one exception to this though is that if you are going against a Pulse who is using his gadget, then you can see his exact location and when he is moving around. And so while I still feel that IQ is completely worthless in most situations, if you are going against a good Pulse user who is flanking and just doing a number on your team and you're having a really hard time of dispatching of him, if one of your teammates does want to counter him, then I guess IQ would be the best way of handling things. The next piece of advice that I have is that you can use breaching charges as traps. I fully understand that this is going to be situational and also very challenging to pull off one of these maneuvers, but if you're playing on bomb defusal, place down the diffuser near one of the objectives, then place your breaching charge around said bomb diffuser, and then step away. As soon as the enemy goes on in to disarm the objective, detonate it and you're gonna get that instantaneous kill. Same is true if you know an enemy is behind a wall. Walls are not safe. If you know an enemy is directly behind it, place that breaching charge on up, detonate, and you're also gonna get that kill. One of my favorite things, I know I mentioned this in a previous video, is use Ash a little bit more creatively. If you're down below and the objective is above you, but you have an idea that a couple of enemies are in one of the corner, use her grenade launcher to do either solid damage or outright kill them, or open up the trap doors so they fall on through and you can get a humiliating kill on them. It doesn't happen very often, and I fully understand this is situational, but when you pull it off, you are going to feel incredible. Speaking of thinking outside the box, I recommend that you experiment with the different dynamics between classes. Last time I talked about how you could set up a trap with Bandit. You place down a deployable shield, you electrify that, you place down a tripwire, you electrify that, and so as soon as an enemy jumps on over what they think is just a shield, they get electrified and they're probably going to be down to like 25% health when they finally get out of it. Another trap that I've devised is if you use Captain's tripwire, place it in a doorway, and then place a deployable shield in front of it, most enemies aren't going to be looking for that trap. They're going to vault on over and they're going to be met with a fireball. It does require some teamwork. You're not able to set this up all by yourself, but because a lot of people aren't expecting this right now, and maybe eventually more people will be savvy to this tactic as time goes on, but at least right now, because it's not used widespread, you can get some pretty cheeky kills in this way. And so I highly recommend that you just experiment with all the classes and the different dynamics between them, because I'm sure there's more creative ways that you can kill your enemy in Rainbow Six Siege. But yeah, guys, that is about it for today's video. I just wanted to share some of the tips that I felt like were very helpful, but may not have been very obvious to newer players, so I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys have any more helpful tips or creative ways at killing people, let us all know down below. We, of course, are all still learning this game. It's still relatively new, and so if you have any fun ways of taking out your targets, let us all know down below. But yep, until tomorrow, have a good one, and take it easy.